I am a very excited old man. I guess I was going to say young man. I'm young. I'm young at heart. So, but I'm excited. This is like the best time I've had politically since the first Reagan term, and you were just you weren't even a thought in your parents' mind.
I wasn't even a thought.
So, so have you had in your political life, have you ever been as excited about the beginning of this about another political moment as this?
Actually, yeah. Obama's first term, I was pretty excited about.
I'm pretty excited you because you were too young to know better.
No, I think there is there's a lot of excitement and energy behind Obama's first term, and a lot of optimism. Um, but I think that kind of fell flat. So,
Yeah,
this felt a lot like that. So hopefully this one doesn't fall flat. But
yeah.
it feels like there's a lot of promise.
Well, I do want to talk a lot about the beginning of the Trump term here in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about Tesla first. We had 25% of a normal day's volume in the first 30 minutes today. The stock dropped 11, then 13, all the way down to 18. And then I predicted that it would be in the green 7 by the end of the day. I missed by 7, but it did come, or 9 or something, but it did come almost all the way back to green today. We have seen this play now, I would say 4 times in the last 5 weeks. Somebody asked me today, after I described all that on X today, somebody asked me, well, who's benefit? Who's doing this? How does a whale benefit? I know you're a much, you're, yeah, saying that you know more about options than me would be like saying that a calculus teacher knows more than a kindergartner about calculus. But uh, how does somebody benefit from having a stock open hard like this and so far down in the first minutes of the day? Or do you know?
From what point of view? You're talking about strictly from an options point of view?
Yeah, I mean, is it options? Is it somebody got some other kind of play in mind, or is it somebody just, but it's happened multiple times. So it looks like somebody is trying the same game, working the same game over and over again. I haven't seen it in 6 years of watching Tesla, and then all of a sudden we see it 4 times in 4 or 5 weeks.
I mean, I don't think it's just Tesla, it's the market. You saw the same thing with Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, Coinbase, all these very highly volatile stocks. If you literally pull up a chart, they all made the exact same move today,
They did.
tick for tick, exact
Oh,
same.
no kidding.
But
Interesting.
to answer your question, if somebody, bought a bunch of puts or somebody sold a bunch of calls, they're the ones that would benefit from it going down. But even then, I think I think that I think there's a lot of people who were buying the rumor, selling the news, and
Hmm.
so I think that's really what we saw today.
Oh, okay. All right. But I mean, it would mean basically a dearth of buyers and a bunch of people that wanted to get out if it was really more than just a big whale that was making this move. It would require an awful lot of people thinking the same at the same moment at the very opening of the day.
Well, I mean, I think everybody was thinking the same thing. I
Okay.
mean, it really wasn't that big of a move. We went from, let's see, where were we? We were at 435 and went down to 406. I
Right.
mean,
It was also up 7 in the pre-market. So add a 7 to that.
yeah, but pre-market's negligible. That's such light volume. Like that's noise.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people just had a trade on for, it's a Trump trade,
Okay.
right? Inauguration goes through, we get out.
Okay. All right. Okay. Interesting. All right. We've wait, let's see. And then the recovery. All apparently, again, all every time we've had this really big sell-off at the beginning, every single time it's recovered. That's why I estimated it would get all the way back to the green. But is that just then that's bargain hunting?
Um, Maybe I think a lot of people probably, I mean, again, these are traders, like going in and out of here.
Sure.
Um, I think you see a lot of people at a certain point. I mean, literally, where do we bounce off of? We bounce off a Fibonacci level. This is literally right where we bounce off, and that's when I mean, can I share my screen? Is that possible?
I would have to arrange that for you, but yes, it'll only take a second. Go ahead.
It's just okay. Cool. So you should be able to see my screen now.
Yep.
Perfect. So okay. So first of all, look at this. We went down,
Uh,
came up a little bit, went down again, came up. That's Tesla. MicroStrategy. We went down, came up, went down again, recovered. Coinbase went down, came up a little bit, went down, recovered. Right. So they all did essentially the same thing.
huh,
Now, what I'm saying here is, if you look at this, Tesla literally bounced off of this 406 Fibonacci level.
okay.
It's just textbook, indicating that this is algorithmic or day traders
Got
that
it.
are in and out of here. So it's nothing really noteworthy, in my opinion. When you see something this clean, I think it's just noise. It's just normal volatility in the stock.
All right. Well, I'm unable to keep. I should write them down. Unable to keep everybody's ideas in my brain at one time. Uh, about earnings next week, where are you believing that we do beat on margins, which is probably the only thing that most people are paying any attention to on this earnings call, other than the call itself?
Honestly, I don't care. I think it's irrelevant at this point. I think the only thing that matters is the call. So I think we probably trade more or less sideways until we get to earnings. And then if you were to have me bet on it, I would say we go down after earnings.
Okay. Mhm. I mean,
I
and
think we
then
probably go down to like 380,
to 380 and then
maybe
bounce,
370.
even
Yeah.
370, then bounce.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Okay. And you believe it'll go down because that's what it always does, or are you nervous about some aspect of the call?
Um, well, okay, so we are, just call it all-time highs, right? We're essentially at all-time highs. Unless we get something tangible, I don't see the market supporting its current price structure,
Mhm.
right? To be at all-time highs, there needs to be some type of catalyst that's going to warrant a company that's on paper not growing, on paper has less margins, less revenue than what they did 2 years ago, and yet they're at an all-time high. So last time they were all-time high, they had, I believe, more net income. They had better margins. Like, they're just more profitable as a company. And so now to be at all-time highs again and have less than what we had back then, I think that's the part where the market's gonna kind of not like it and try to find a little more of a equilibrium. Not saying I agree with that,
Right, right,
obviously,
right.
but I'm just saying that's, if I'm a betting man, and
Mhm.
actually as I pull out further, I'm looking at this. I think we could come all the way down to like, oh, now 380. Yeah, I like 380.
380. Okay. I would, by the way, we're really close to being in concert, except that I think it will come down. It may come down to 380. I think it'll trade between 380 and 480 between now and then, which is what I've been saying for 2 weeks. But I do think that it will do that if Elon's has the right, you know, energy, enthusiasm, sells it, like he did the last two times, I think we could see a pop afterwards. And again, my number has been 410 actually for a year. Maybe it's not a whole year, but it's been a very, very long time that I've been calling 410 after this earnings call. And then of course we got Brian at 450. So I think between 410 and 450 is probably, and it might not be the day after or during the call. It may be 3 days. I called it for the end of January because that 3 days after is always anybody's guess, but it usually settles out about 3 days after. So that's kind of where I am. Oops, oops, we lost your sound. What did you do? What did you pull
Whoops,
out?
sorry. I would say that's probably about right, um, based on what we know, all things being equal. Now, there's the what ifs,
Yes,
right?
of course. So many.
And so that's the real risk, if you
Yes.
will. Um, so if anyone's like trying to get cute on Tesla stock or with options, that's where you can get burned.
Yeah. 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 Larry, famously for, I guess, 4 or 5 quarters in a row, this guy is, born to call it right, but for 4 or 5 quarters in a row, he would, buy into the earnings call and then put a short on it before the earnings call, and then make money on in going in and also make money coming out. But then he didn't, and he got it right again because that was the first time that Elon was all pumped and positive. Anyway, so let's look longer term.
Wait, so what's Larry doing now?
He's not doing that anymore. He's not. He says he's not interested in playing those games anymore.
Fair
So
enough.
let's look at the fundamentals in a different way because of the Trump administration now. So getting the price of oil down will be phenomenal for the country. It'll be great for Trump making his promise come true in terms of overall budgets, personal budgets being impacted in a positive way. It would not be good for Tesla in general. If the price of oil goes down, it's not good for my old industry, the bicycle industry, and it's not good for Tesla because it makes it less compelling to move out of gasoline powered things. If we have a change in the incentives, whether that's the 750, whether it's ZEV credits, whether any of those incentives, generally speaking, none of that can be good for Tesla in the 2025s. So does any of that worry you?
Um, so I kind of have a different view on oil. I don't think
And you're an expert, by the way.
no. Um, I don't know if I agree with Trump on the whole drill baby drill. I don't think that we need more oil. I don't think that's the problem. Um, I, I mean, it's such a nuanced topic because it depends on what you're trying to actually accomplish. If you're trying to weaken the Middle East, if you're trying to weaken Russia by flooding the markets, okay, that's one thing. But at the same time, you're also hurting all the oil producers here at home because we have to stop drilling for oil at a lot higher of a price than what they do in Russia or the Middle East. So we kind of handicap ourselves. But if you're able to negotiate where Europe buys all their oil from us instead, okay, well, then now at least our oil has somewhere to go. And so then West Texas Intermediate could stay up higher than Brent. And that would be interesting. So I think it depends on what the actual strategy is, which obviously he hasn't said, and it wouldn't make sense to say out loud or publicly. But again, all things being equal, based on what we know, what he says about inflation and oil prices, I fundamentally disagree with. I think the words that come out of his mouth, which is all I can really go off of, I think are wrong. If I read between the lines, it makes sense. But without reading between the lines, I would say it doesn't make sense. I think the problem with inflation is too much slosh out there, too much printing of money, too many
Yes.
dollars, too few goods. It's not oil. That's not the problem.
Yeah. So on the one hand, we've got I refer this to as a systemic problem. The systemic problem is printing too much money. And this is going to affect you long term. So if you print too much money, it is in the system and it's going to impact somewhere, somehow, and raise prices. On the other side of the coin, you have more of the endemic problem. What is happening month to month in the course of a year, let's say, that's impacting prices on a day-to-day basis? That would be shortages of things like eggs right now, or beef. You've got shortages, oversupplies of things because somebody, you know, gets too much of it, and they offer discounts. Changes in money valuations, tariffs. I mean, all of these things are, I hate to use the word transitional, but those things are all at least endemic. They are a current problem that may or may not last for very long. And so, but they don't impact inflation for the long term. So I think that what can happen with oil, because it's in everything, it's all around us. I mean, practically everything I'm looking at right now is plastic. That's either oil or natural gas that's making that plastic stuff. If I look around my room, a lot of things would come down in price potentially if oil comes and natural gas come down. My gas bill when I go to the pump could come down first. That'd be the first place I might see it. The cost of my natural gas heating bill would come down. That's another place I might see it right away. So these are the kind of things that are going to get headlines. The consumer is going to see it and feel it. So there's advantages there.
It depends. I think the oil industry in the United States, they don't want to go back to a world where we have 60, 50, $40 a barrel oil. They don't want that.
Yeah.
It was borderline profitable for them. So you also have to have incentive for them to want to drill. And I don't see them wanting to see that seesaw happen again, that whipsaw. The oil industry is known for boom and bust cycles.
Yes.
And what they've really tried to do over the last, call it 15 years, is to, end those whipsaws. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think the only way this works is if we have somewhere to send that oil. Because if we do what we did last time, it won't work. These companies won't drill. They won't.
Yeah. What I would think is that I think it was even you who told me that the oil companies would not mind. They prefer it to be $80 a barrel, but if it was $59 a barrel, they're still fine. And I'm sure Trump knows that number. I'm sure that he's very well aware of where equilibrium is. They even say that Trump will be his grade card, what he considers his grade card for the his time in office is the stock market. So the stock market is going to do better. The oil companies are going to do better if oil doesn't trade below, say, $60 a barrel. So does that make sense that there would be an attempt to get to a place where it's helping the consumer, but it's not killing the oil companies?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. Because I also don't know what the break even for drill companies are anymore. Because I don't know how inflation has impacted them.
Right.
Because it's not like they also have costs, right?
Right.
They have human capital, which is very expensive, and that hasn't gone down. There's lots of steel involved, right? All these drill pipes, all these strands of drill pipes, that's not cheap at all. Obviously, you have the fuel, the vessels that are out in the Gulf. You have the rigs that are on land. All those require maintenance. And then there's the refining. It, there's a lot to it. It's not just simple. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that they're going to be a lot more reluctant to hire a bunch of people, just to lay off a bunch of people again, start up companies, just to close up companies again. And there's a lot of people that won't return to the oil field. They're sick of it. They're sick of having their whole lives disrupted because then they get laid off. And, when the good times are good, they're great. But when you get laid off and you live in the middle of nowhere, Texas or Louisiana or Arkansas, and there's no other job, but you're used to living the six-figure salary, and then also you don't have that, but then you still have your $60,000 truck, and you got your $70,000 side by side, and you bought that new $400,000 house, and then you don't have your job anymore. That's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. We just watched the movie, right? What was the television program? It was just on Landman. Yeah.
I don't
So,
know.
oh yeah, you didn't watch you should have been watching Landman, man. It's all about those oil fields. All right, listen. But what about Tesla? Let me come back to Tesla though. If Trump gets his way, which he tends to, and oil prices do come down, and he eliminates the federal ZEV credits, and he potentially eventually gets rid of the $7,500 IRA. Do these things concern you, even in the short term? Do you think we could see, a short-term problem if those things start to manifest?
No, I actually don't think it's gonna have any impact on Tesla. I don't think well, I don't think the ZEV credits will be an impact. I don't think those are gonna get impacted.
Okay.
You correct me if I'm wrong.
The
Like
fed, the federal ones are just a part. It's mostly California is the biggest player. Most of the
but
ZIP codes come from California. Those aren't going to go away. And there's
but
12 other
he didn't
states.
cancel any of them though.
Huh? No,
He
nothing's
didn't
been.
cancel any of them. Yeah,
No,
exactly. The only thing he signed yesterday was a mandate
right.
by 2030. That's it.
Yeah. So not
So
I'm saying long term. I was looking further out. Again,
no,
I don't think the ZEV credits will be an issue because it's the federal amounts are so small. But the $7,500 thing could be an issue.
I don't think that'll be an issue either. I think it'll be an issue for others. I think that will send more people to Tesla.
Okay. Okay. If they want an EV, they'll be like, okay, it's going to be
Yeah.
Tesla. All right. Well, listen, we have to talk about it for at least a minute because you brought it up. Everybody's talking about it. So go ahead, talk to me about the the big salute, the Elon Musk
Oh,
salute, and will this be something that just goes away in a few days? Or by the way, I did a poll on X, and I asked people whether they thought it was really a Nazi salute, and 86%, might have been 88%, roughly in that area, said you would have to be an idiot to think that.
yeah. That's just stupid. I I think it'll live for a while on MSNBC and probably certain segments on CNN, but other than that, no. I think it'll go away because it's not what he was doing. It's stupid. It can't be that you can't move your body a certain way. It's I mean everybody's done emotion like that before. It's that doesn't mean you're a Nazi. That doesn't mean you're. He's talking about just giving his heart out to the people, like just thanking them, saying his heart goes out to them.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. Okay, so the first 3 weeks in China, we've had actually positive numbers, even though there is no Model Y Juniper refresh being shipped yet. So I think it's 3.8% up for the first 3 weeks. And that's just the China numbers. We don't know how much is being shipped to the other locations. We've got Juniper coming out maybe shortly here. Have you thought about the impact of Juniper on overall on Y sales? Do you think it will just keep us where we are, or do you think we'll get another bump in total Y sales based on Juniper?
I don't think it does anything in the United States. I think people are still dealing with the same issues. No money, high interest rates. It's the same blockers still exist. So until things get better, I mean, look, Trump's in office, and that's great and all, and the stock market's doing great. But you tell me what's changed in the economy. There's nothing, absolutely nothing. The
Optimism.
people, well, but that's the stock market. The only people who are optimistic are the people who are invested. If you're not invested, you're not optimistic. And what is it, like 5% of people actually invest? I don't know if I'm making that up, but it's a
Well,
small.
it's yeah, people that are actively. So, I forget it's well over 50% of the people have stocks and or index funds, in their pensions or whatever, but they're not actively invested. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's so small
Right.
if you look at it. Like, yeah, to your point, it says 62% of U.S. adults invest in the stock market, but if you start to parse it out, it's like, okay, it's that's a fake 62.
Right.
So, but my point is, like, people who are aware of what's going on, they're excited, they're feeling good. Everyone else is still struggling with the same stuff. Eggs are still expensive. You still can't buy a home. Um, cost of everything has gone up and it hasn't stopped. So until things change, I don't see a huge, increase in vehicle sales. I just don't. So
Mhm.
either one of two things have to happen. Either people want to go away from ICE to EV, or we need to see rates and some deflation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There was a lot of activity in Bitcoin this week. I got the impression, I felt like I saw you on a slight rant about Bitcoin. Did I get that right?
Uh, I don't know. Rant is the right word. That's so negative.
A positive rant. No, you had some concerns. You had something um, more dramatic than normal to say about Bitcoin.
I had a long form conversation with Farzad and Hans where we discussed Bitcoin, stable coins, fiat, and yeah, just we just talked about it. Uh, but
So we've heard it all before on this channel, or was there some new nuance, some new wrinkle in terms of the Nicholas Gibbs version?
no wrinkle. I'm just always trying to figure out where I'm wrong about things. And when it comes to Bitcoin, I'll probably end up being wrong about it. And that's fine. We can't always be right about everything. But I just don't I just don't think that it's going to do what people think it's going to do. I don't buy that it's going to be the replacement, the standard, the reserve. Um, it's you hear people talk about in all kinds of ways, whether it's um, as a asset class or store of value, or if it's actual money because it can be broken down to satoshis. Um, I just I buy it. I could believe it more as a store of value to an extent, but then I ask, what's the value in it? And the only thing people can say what the value is, okay, well, people outside the United States or a Western country, you know, it's the only place that they can really put their money where their governments can't take ownership of it, right? It's the safest place you could put your money where governments keep their hands off of it. And that's a great argument. But what's proprietary about Bitcoin when it comes to that? What's unique about it? Why is that different than any other coin that could be built? And that's where Bitcoin really, I don't see it as value when it comes to that because that's not unique to Bitcoin. It's the same argument I made with the LLMs, where 2 years ago, when I was saying LLMs are a commodity, people were telling me that I don't get LLM. Like, okay. And here we are. And all of a sudden, you see all these LLMs have come down to the lowest cost provider. And I see the same thing with Bitcoin because, again, I don't see anything unique about it. And then you'll get them in your comments where people say, "Oh, you just don't understand the technology." And fair, that there might be something I don't understand, but based on what I do understand, I don't see anything unique about it. I get the proof of work. I get the whole idea of the chain, how that works. I like I get all that, but my question is, why couldn't this just be created through another crypto? And even then, we're seeing that proof of work may not be the best way to have a cryptocurrency. And like I believe so much more in the idea of stable coins. And I think crypto, I'm bullish on crypto
In
as a
general.
technology. I'm just not like I think eventually Visa, MasterCard, all that will will move in the way of crypto, right? Like eventually they'll ride on the same rails as crypto. Like it's inevitable that's going to happen. But why does it have to be Bitcoin? Why Bitcoin? Who's to say that there's not going to be another technology that can replace Bitcoin or a better crypto, right? Like we've never seen one technology stand the test of time. So why would it all of a sudden be Bitcoin?
And when the Trump coin and the Melania coin, and then Warren Redlick said he was thinking about coming out with a Warren coin. Did any of that impact your thinking about any of this?
No, I,
Okay.
I I see that no different than it's just like memorabilia is the way I see it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they're not, they're purely memorabilia. $5 billion worth of memorabilia.
I mean, that's how I see it. Yeah, I mean they're meme coins or shit coins.
Okay.
That's what they're called. So yeah,
Okay. But
they're
okay, so
nothing.
people are trading the memorabilia. It could just be a MAGA hat and be the same. It's the same difference.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. All right. Okay. So
And
TikTok. Oh,
just real quick, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I I don't love it, but I don't see anything wrong with it. If they put out a coin and people want to trade it, that's the market. Clearly, they were buyers.
clearly. TikTok. I listened to the thing today with Trump talking to the billionaires in the room about the new deal with TikTok, where somehow the United States gets to decide, apparently. So China, I guess somebody in China has told Trump, you decide, you figure it out. So he's starting to talk like the United States should have a part in it. They should have a revenue from it. So I don't know whether that's a license or a permit or whether there's the United States government owns shares. Um, I'm confused. Did you have any thoughts out of that conversation?
Well, that was my same question. When he said that we should own half of it, what do you mean by that?
Yes.
Who's we?
Who's we? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that means a U.S. company has to own part of it, or several U.S. companies, or if literally the government would own part of it.
Yeah, when it was first talked about a few days ago, I thought he was saying that it would have to be a U.S. company that would have to own half at least, and then China would own the rest. I don't think that's what he was saying today. He sounded to me like he was saying it would be the U.S. government would somehow control some portion of it, either by licensing or whatever, and that the rest of it would be owned by a U.S. company to be named in the future. So um, I guess we're on the same page. Then we really don't know, and there's more to find out, I suppose. Do you think
A
Elon
lot more.
do you think Elon should buy it?
No.
Okay. Stay out, huh?
Yeah. That's a mess.
So
I wouldn't touch it.
he could just build it himself. I've noticed that we have a video tab on our app now, and you can watch what are similar to TikTok videos now, although right now they're all political.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of. I wish the video tab would be more like YouTube than
Yeah, yeah,
the way it is. I
yeah.
feel like that's a mistake.
Yeah, right now, well, there's a billion people, apparently, billions of people who do like to watch these little 1 minute clips. And I
Well,
understand it. I've done it a couple of times where I've, gone down that road for a half an hour, but I've gone, nope, I'm not going here. And I just turn it off and go do something else.
I'm not saying not to have that. I
Yeah,
just think it's you should be able to like also watch long form content and be able to see it there. Like on YouTube, I can like as you scroll, you have your shorts and then you have long form content. So you have shorts recommended and long form content. It should be more like that.
okay. I agree. I think you're 100% right. Okay, let's talk about the new data center in Texas, $500 billion investment. What are your
To
thoughts?
who? To who? For what?
For
How?
what?
When? Like this talk is this press release that everybody's so excited about, but there's nothing but ambiguity. Like
100,000
like
employees.
what?
100,000 employees, it said.
You lost me on that one. I missed something.
The president, when he was announcing it, said there would be 100,000 employees with regard to these data centers in Texas. The 20, I guess, total data centers that will be built, there will be somehow 100,000 employees involved.
That's crazy.
I know. I can't figure out where that number comes from.
Yeah. I, that makes no sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazon has less than 100,000 employees, or
Right.
or AWS has less than 100,000 employees.
So
That
taking out the 100,000 employees. So it's, I mean, this is, what's his face? ChatGPT president,
no
that guy.
Sam.
Yeah, Sam said a few weeks ago that he wanted to spend. I mean, what wasn't it 3 trillion or something? How much did he say he wanted? This is like
Yeah, a
a few
lot.
months ago. Well, sounds like he
I,
got a bunch of it.
did he? How do you know it's him? Like, I don't understand this. Like, who's getting the money? Who owns the data center? The government, or do they individually, or are they collaborating together and then they all get to share certain cycles on the data? Like, or do they say, hey, you get 5 data centers, you get 5 data centers? Like, how's that work?
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly it was certainly confusing. Again, not enough information. So we have to wait for more information. But it does give Trump a headline.
It does, but I see everybody like, okay, so it's called Stargate, right?
Yes.
See, this person's asking the exact same question I have. It's going to come from where exact? Oh, maybe it's not. Nah, this is the same question I had.
Okay.
I don't understand how it's going to be used. Like, everybody's so excited about this and posting about it. Like, it's such a great thing. Why? Why is it a great thing? Like, like I'm all for it if you can explain it to me, but to just be excited because something got done is stupid.
Yeah.
Why are you excited about it? How is it going to be used? Who's going to own it? Who's going to have access to it?
Yeah.
Who's going to decide how it should be built?
What's
Who's
it
going to
going to
decide
do?
when to update it? Who's going to decide what workloads go on it? Who's going to decide access to it? Who's going to make the decisions here? Like, tell me more. Like, to just get excited about this, I think is insane.
All
Like,
right.
you don't know why you're excited.
All right. So now, one thing that we do know in detail, because most of the things have been detailed, and Mr. Trump has done, I don't know, three press three press three press meetings over the last couple of days over all of these signature things that he signed. What have you thought about the first 32 hours of the Trump administration? Let me tell you what I said on X. I said, I couldn't hardly sleep waiting for that first day to happen, anticipating some of the things I was hoping he would do in that first day, and virtually every single thing on my list got done.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on it, Randy. I think he did what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
You know, I that's what I expected. Uh,
But presidents don't normally do what they say they're going to do. They make all the promises and then they come in and do none of the things they said they were going to
yeah,
do.
but we've had 4 years with him, so we knew this was the case.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet you if you'd asked the mainstream media if they thought he was going to keep all his promises, they wouldn't have said yes.
Well, everybody kept saying he's bluffing on this, bluffing on that. Like, okay, all right, bluffing.
Well,
That's a
according
mistake.
yeah, according to Druckenmiller, he says, I've been doing this for 49 years, and we're probably going from the most anti-business administration to the opposite. He says, I'd say that CEOs are somewhere between relieved and giddy. So we're a believer in animal spirits. He says, but on the stock market, he said it's complicated. You're going to have this push for a strong economy, which could cause the bond yields to go up versus you know uh, you know, if the bonds don't go up, then you get something entirely different. So it sounds you and I have been talking about this for months together. The bonds are still the thing. So the bonds actually did come down a little bit yesterday, and we'll look in a minute. Maybe they're coming down again today. I'm not sure. or I'm sorry, in the pre-market. Um, so are you excited about the fact that the entrepreneurial classes are giddy, he says.
Yes, but I kind of agree with him. Like the market's right now priced for perfection. The market is literally at the highest point it's ever been, yeah, as it pertains to earnings. We are set up for failure here. Is all I can
It-
say.
so the earnings need to come in over the next 2 weeks to justify where we are. But even then, you're worried that even that the guidance won't be good enough to justify the current levels.
I mean, not necessarily. Like Netflix
So
missed on their earnings.
they missed on the earnings. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
Yeah, but they're soaring in after hours. They're up
they had
14%.
10 million and more increase in subscribers, 10 million
Yeah.
more than expected. So they're kind of judged on that subscriber thing.
Yeah. So there's that. We don't know, but I think we're all pretty sure Tesla's not going to have the best earnings. It may not be as bad as we anticipate, but I don't think anyone's expecting a good earnings, right?
Street is expecting 72 cents. AJ is at 76. I'm not playing that game anymore, but I'm thinking those are probably fair.
Yeah. Nothing anyone's excited about. Nothing to warrant a high PE ratio if that's your thing. Um, but it's just everything's priced perfection. Everything's set up to fail. So we'll see what happens. I I do think the Mag 7 will be fine.
Mm.
It's the rest that I would be cautious about.
So, but the rest tend to be, especially if you're talking like the S&P, the rest of the S&P, if you're talking about, you know, the mid caps, the low caps, they're not priced to perfection. A lot of them are beat down.
Mm, I don't know. I don't know about that.
S&P is grabbing all the. I mean, it's a huge percentage of the overall value of the Mag 7 is a huge percentage of the value of the S&P.
I agree, but if all it takes is one of them to not do well,
Okay.
right,
Like
and that
Apple,
could weigh on the S and P.
like
And
Apple.
if yeah, Apple's a great example, right? So Nvidia could be fine, Meta could be fine, Amazon could be fine, Tesla could be fine, Netflix could be fine, but then Apple doesn't do well. Good luck. There
Mhm.
goes your S and P. Um, I don't know. I think things are very very frothy.
Very, very frothy. Okay. Well, I've been saying they've been frothy for months now. We get a 5% hit over the first 2 weeks of the month. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Let's get at least 10 while we're at it, but no, we have to come back. I would love to see at least a breather.
Yeah, I agree. Just nice break, and I think we'll get it. I think we'll get it going into February, March. You'll
Okay.
see it.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll watch that. We'll try to remember that you said it here.
Don't worry, I'll remind you.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see what's happening here. So during the actual day, we had a Dow up 537, NASDAQ up 126, S&P up 52, Tesla down $2.43 at the end, but Apple was down $7.34. Microsoft was down a tad. The rest were up, and the Cathie Woods, except for PayPal, were all up. So that was what happened today. In the after hours, last time I checked, Tesla was down and still is another $3.20, still sitting at 420 and 90 cents. So I think, if you had told anybody 6 months ago that we would be at 420 before the earnings call, they would have laughed at you.
Yeah,
And they actually laughed at me when I said they would be at 410 after the earnings call. So anyway, I think everybody should be very, very happy with their Tesla stock right now. It's performing very, very well compared to expectations. But here we go. The main number, the big number, the question. See, back up. The bond, the 10-year is up 2.1 basis points. It is back, but it's still only back to 4.6. That is still better than 4.8,
Yeah.
but I'm not happy to see it being up in the pre-market.
But that kind of goes to what I was telling you.
So we've got the 2-year up 0.8 of a basis point and the 1 month up 2.2, kind of mirroring the 10-year. The shorts have actually held on much better than the 10-year. The 10-year, of course, as I just mentioned, down 20 basis points from the high. Yeah, if I was a betting man, I'm actually thinking the bonds do continue down. I think what we're going to see over the next 10 days is because of what I've already seen out of Trump, I think we're going to see serious actual actions that the bond market will believe about cutting government. We're going to see real stuff happening. And
Like what?
I think that we've got the announcement, of course, yesterday about the 20 people that will be hired and how each department, each of the different agencies throughout the federal government will have to have 4 individuals within their organization that will be pulled together as a price cutting team or a cost cutting team, and that they will be held responsible for finding ways not only to cut the costs in their own organization, but also finding ways to cut consumer costs in, to the extent that they have something to do or they're somehow related to the consumer market. Any way that they can think of that can get that done. That's that is sending a message. Do you remember? You were not again. You were not born, but we had the whole situation with President Reagan. Really, the only smirch on his record were the gun running out of was it Nicaragua? I think I can't remember
Mm,
so long, but it was a matter of where the president had said kind of in general what he desired. He didn't give any specific command for General North to go do what he did, but he was like, the boss said this is what he wants, and I think I see a way to get it done. And he went and got it done. Well, that happens in every organization. And Trump's super powerful.
yeah.
So if he puts out the word, this is how I want it done, people are going to say, well, that's how I'm going to get job security. That's how I'm going to do well. That's how I'm going to please my boss. And I think that alone sets a huge mood.
Yeah, possibly. But I think there's, I don't think that's enough that can be done fast enough to change the tides of what we've already done. So, unless I'm incorrect, which I told you I've been sick all weekend, so maybe nobody trusts what I'm about to say, but I believe the only times we've actually uh, constricted the money supply has been 3 or 4 other times, and every time it led to a recession.
Oh,
And we have been doing that, and it just feels like we're gearing up for something like that. I'm not
okay.
saying it'd be a bad recession or anything like that, but I just think there's too much in motion already. I
I
don't know.
think I've been saying for weeks, I think Elon said we could have some heartache on our way to good times. And I think that's true. They're going to cut,
Yeah.
they've already said no additional money to these countries that we've been helping. They've already said uh, no additional hires. They've already said no uh, zero, no more increases in any budgets. I mean, they've already got all these things. No more regulations can be passed in any agencies. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's already in place that kind of looks like zero-based budgeting. That alone could already start to impact downstream in terms of revenues to companies that depend on those activities. And then if they start cutting employees, they already cut one entire department, that DEI department, whatever it's called, that's gone.
But it's not just about the government. It's about the private sector. You're seeing company after company announce layoffs right now.
Mhm.
You still see record high lows of borrowing rates, or not record high, but record high in
Recent.
recent history. So everything's more expensive to do. Everything's more expensive to to build and grow. And if people aren't spending, I mean, I don't have to explain to you what happens when people stop spending, right? That's
Yeah,
the worst thing for the economy is
yeah,
people stop spending. This is why they say a little bit of inflation is good because it incentivizes people to spend.
right.
People would rather buy something now because they think it's going to get more expensive in the future. So it perpetuates itself. But if people are strapped for cash, if people are taking out too much debt and they can't make their bills, I mean, we contract. And the question is, the thing is, no matter what they cut in the government, that doesn't change what's happened in the economy. That doesn't hit people's bank accounts. That
Yeah.
doesn't
So
create pay raises. Like
yeah.
those changes take so much time that the only thing that can like actually make a jolt in that is to cut rates.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the shorter term maybe than you are, and I think the bond market is looking for that shorter term. They do not believe Trump did not cut uh, government when he was there last time. I don't think he saw that as a mandate the first time he was in office. This time, I think he sees it as a major mandate. He's got the
Yeah,
Doge. So I think that, but the bond market's going, we've heard this story before. We've only seen it, as you point out, the only time the government's ever cut spending was or got the deficit
Clinton.
was Clinton and Gingrich. And we don't, hopefully Trump, Elon will be the same as a Clinton Gingrich.
Yeah.
And so we'll see, and the Republican Congress has to go along, and we have to be able to count on all those members, voting because we only have a thin margin. So I think that's why the bond market is still not willing to give as much credit yet, so to speak. But but I think we can see that over a few weeks, and if they do see it, I think the interest rates will come down, the bond yields will come down, and that will potentially open up at least more durable goods, automobiles, et cetera, could pick up.
I hope you're right.
Me too. Oil is showing unchanged on mine. Are you showing anything different on what's in front of you? I'm showing both Brent and
I got lunch,
yeah, on both, which is extremely weird.
but it fell today. I do know that.
Yeah, it fell today. We're at 75.89, and we were over $80 on Texas Intermediate last week. So natural gas slightly back up again, but it fell pretty heavily today. But up 0.45 in the pre-market. Gold up another $3. 27.62. Is that a new high?
I don't know.
Might be. It's close. If it's not a new high, it's close.
That was for gold. That was for gold. You said.
Yeah, gold. Yeah, 27.62.
Let's see. No,
Okay,
looks like yeah, almost.
almost. Okay, all right. So right up against a new high. All right.
Yeah, it looks like the all-time high was probably like October 30th.
Okay. Silver, 31 and a half bucks, up 0.16%. Copper up, down rather, 0.12%, but right where it's been, 4.336. It's like, I feel like that's always the price of copper, but I know I'm wrong. The pre-market, here we go. Oh, wait, crypto. These are out of order compared to what I normally do. Okay, Bitcoin, 105.9, 100, call it 106. So up 2,115 today, still off of its all-time high of 209, I mean 109, but that might have been one of those exuberance things. It might take a while to get back up there.
Um, I don't know. I think I think Bitcoin's overextended. I think a lot of the hype has been pulled forward. So
Okay,
that's kind of how I think about it. But but I could be completely wrong.
you keep saying that.
Well, because I could. I I I try really hard to understand the uniqueness and the moat of Bitcoin, but I don't see it. I don't understand it to be anything like. I'm not saying that there's anything else out there like Bitcoin per se,
Yeah.
but the question is, why can't another crypto be created just like Bitcoin? And so then it's like, okay, well, there's the popularity and the people know what it is. Okay, cool, but you could say that about Blockbuster. You could say that about Kodak. Like you could say that about anything. You could say that about MySpace.
Right, right, right. Yes.
So
Yeah. True, true. Very true. Um, Dow is up 15 or 0.03. The S&P up 16 or 0.27, but the Nasdaq actually doing quite well in the uh, I guess that's the pre-market. I always forget what they call these things, so they have all different names for them. But anyway, we'll call it the pre-market for now. It might be the after hours. I don't know. Um, Up 126 or 0.58%. So the market generally over the next week, do you think will continue with the Trump bump, or do you think there will be a point at which the profits will be taken? I'm talking short term.
yes, I think profits will start to get taken.
Okay. All right.
I think it'll happen probably right around Tesla earnings.
Right about Tesla earnings. Okay. So that we could have a macro event at the same time that we're having the Tesla earnings, which would, so we could go down for both reasons, huh?
Well, what's the macro event?
The macro event would be the stock market, the macro stock market.
Oh, gotcha.
Not
Yeah,
the macro economy, the macro stock market. Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, I think between Tesla earnings and the Fed speaking that day, it'll be
Oh,
spicy.
that's right. The Fed's on the same day. We got the PCE, must be maybe
Friday,
this Friday.
right?
I mean, CP, yeah, yeah. Is it this Friday? I don't remember. I don't think it's this Friday. No, I don't think so. I have it. You have it close?
Mm, let me see. I'll look this up.
Huh. What is going on with my?
January 31st.
Oh, it's the day after. Oh, look at that. They have to make the decision without it. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's
2 days after.
2 days after. Interesting. All right. Well, Mr. Gibbs, there are so many Gibbs in my life. There's Dr. Gibbs, and then there's you. Yeah.
There's only one Gibbs. Even he knows it.
I think there's a football player Gibbs too, right?
Like I said, there's only one. Not claiming it's me.
It's not
But
necessarily. All right. Well, thank you, sir, for coming on and amusing me, or informing me, or at least challenging me. I don't know. Did we accomplish at least some of those things for you folks? I hope so. Because if we did, then you hit like and subscribe and notify. By the way, Brian White will be on just in a couple of hours at 7:45, and he will be giving me his 10 questions for next Wednesday. And I will pretend like I'm Elon and
oh,
try to answer those. Yeah, yeah.
you gotta do the voice.
I don't do voices. I have about as much ability to do voices as I do to draw, and nobody ever chooses me for any of those games. Though, what is it called? Uh, See, I don't even want to say the name of the game. I'm so embarrassed by how poorly I draw. The claim is I can't even draw a stick figure. All right, Nick. Great as always. Thank you so much for being on. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.
Cheers.